Episode 7 ended on a bit of a dramatic cliffhanger, where we didn't quite know where Blitz and Stolas stood in their relationship. Season 2 picked up with the story continuing from Stolas' perspective, and again, we weren't quite sure where the two stood or what it would be like the next time they were together. Finally, we're at episode 2 of this season, and the two have crossed paths even sooner than I expected, but the way they interacted with each other was surprisingly casual. So today, we're going to break down everything that happened in this episode, and particularly what happened between Blitz and Stolas, and what it might say about their future. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe. Hit that subscribe button. Our statistics show very few of our subscribers are actually subscribed, but they keep watching our videos anyways, so you might as well hit that subscribe button. Plus, I got an 8-part series coming up about the rulers of each ring of hell, and other great breakdowns that you won't want to miss. The episode opened with Stolas working at sending Stella all of her things, something I'm surprised he's putting up with after the fight he and Stella had at the end of episode 1. Octavia wakes up and for once is really excited instead of miserable. As a child, Octavia was told about a great cosmic event that would happen called what I believe to be Azathoth's Tears, a meteor shower whose lore has some crazy implications, but ones I'll probably be discussing in tomorrow's video. For today's video, the most important thing is that it was an event that Octavia was really excited about going to, and one that Stolas got distracted from while catering to Stella's crazy demands. Octavia seems to understand the hatred that Stolas has for Stella, but she recognizes that the hatred has blinded him. As Octavia says near the end of the episode, she doesn't understand why Stolas hates Stella more than he loves her. Because of this, Octavia decided to storm the IMP office, steal the grimoire for herself, and then ask it to take her to the stars. I had theorized in the previews for this episode that she was trying to go back to the same starry place Stolas took her in episode 2 of season 1. However, while the event she wanted to see was visually similar, it was a smaller scale than the apocalyptic end of the solar system that he showed her first, though it too seemed to start with a large space rock's trajectory. Without her knowledge of the grimoire, it instead takes her to Earth, specifically to Hollywood, the Walk of Fame, where there are stars on the ground engraved with the names of celebrities. I actually happen to live in this neighborhood and would love to do a video breaking down just how accurate this episode was. I was expecting Blitz and the gang to jump in the portal after her, but instead they needed the help of Stolas to open a new portal entirely. Now in episode 6, Stolas was able to bring himself to the human realm, but only by possessing dead agents to do a human ritual normally intended to summon and bind Stolas against his will. This was a sort of a backdoor cheat code he developed, but in this case Stolas is able to just open a portal. This is likely due to the Osmodian crystal he opened a book about in the previous episode. The runes, when translated, explain that Osmodian crystals are used by succubus to travel up to Earth. I assume this to be a gift to Blitz, so that Stolas can have his grimoire back for his duties, but Blitz can maintain his business. Especially after having the grimoire stolen by Octavia in this episode, Stolas seems concerned about the security at the IMP office, and how anyone could really break in, steal it, and cause endless damage to Hell and Earth with it. After all the fathers and daughters had made up, I thought Stolas would have a scene with Blitz where they address what happened, and Stolas would gift Blitz the Osmodian crystal. But not only was this ignored, Blitz and Stolas seemed to ignore everything that had happened to them recently. Now from Blitz's perspective this makes sense, as he's largely in trouble because of Octavia and the grimoire going missing. And even with that in mind, I imagined that he would bring himself right back to their usual dynamic after the events of episode 7. I recognize that Blitz needed that night off, but I didn't imagine he would stretch that out for too long, not because he enjoys the dynamic, but because he knows he needs to maintain it and make the best of it, entirely unaware of Stolas' plans to seemingly let go of Blitz and give him some space. What this episode did, however, was re-emphasize all the reasons Stolas fell for Blitz, recreating them and even adding on to them. And while I think he may have intended to give Blitz the Osmodian crystal, I think all of this may have been setting him up to hide it from Blitz and keep on their arrangement. He would have given the crystal to Blitz, knowing that Blitz could become distant from him. But as we saw from the beginning of this episode, Stolas is continuing to backslide, and his hatred for Stella is blinding him to what he should be doing. Blitz gets abducted by a TV crew in this episode, thinking him to be an in-world version of Brandon Rogers, who himself plays Blitz, this episode ironically being written by Adam Nalen, a series writer for Helluva Boss, but also a writer for Brandon Rogers' personal channel. While forced to act on stage, Stolas falls in love with Blitz again, seeing him make a fool of himself just like he did as a child. Following this, the stage catches on fire, and Blitz ends up somewhat rescuing Stolas all heroic and manly. All of this to say, I think that Stolas may have intended to give Blitz the Osmodian Crystal, but instead may have just changed his mind, and will continue to keep the fact that Osmodian Crystals exist away from Blitz. Their existence was revealed to us not to set up Blitz receiving it for himself, but to let us know that Stolas could have given Blitz a no-strings-attached way to the human realm all along, and still could, but will choose not to, fearing he will lose Blitz if he does. However, I could be wrong, and the beginning of the next episode could reveal that Blitz will be getting that Osmodian Crystal to continue his business that way. Instead of this episode building into Stolas betraying Blitz, it could be building into Blitz realizing that Stolas has some valid reasons for his attraction to him, and maybe that the base of their dynamic doesn't have to be toxic. We've got plenty more to break down, but real quick, I just want to introduce you all to some new members of the Cartoon Universe family. This is Deep Dive. He's my six-legged axolotl. Some of you may remember him from the Cartoon Universe movie trailer we posted to celebrate 500,000 subscribers a while back. Link in the description and pinned comment down below if you want to watch it, but from now on, he'll always just be sleeping right here in the background. Additionally, you'll find the link to the Twitter account of our friend Caden, who designed Deep Dive, as well as a link to the Twitter account of Haro, the newest member of our Cartoon Universe team. For over a month now, Haro has been editing almost all of the videos we put out. He's been an absolute game changer of a friend and now colleague. Follow them on Twitter, and while you're down there in those comments, be sure to tell them how cool they are. Also included in the description is the artist for Haro's pop-up character icons, Victoria Void. One very interesting thing in this episode was the inclusion of the in-world social media Synstagram. Instagram accounts for the various characters have existed in real life for some time, giving us a look into the show that is what I would refer to as second-level canon, something that helps you understand the show better, but not to be thought of when it accidentally contradicts the show. Originally called Voxtagram, a reference to the social media site meant to be built by Vox and his surrogate daughter Velvet, the show has since started calling it Synstagram, though VoxFlix, the Vox-based streaming service, still exists alongside it. The real-life Instagram posts are often drawn and set to release in advance, with the intent being that they'd seem to reference events happening in the most recent episodes. Because of the delay surrounding the originally intended episode 8 of Season 1, however, some of these posts came out long before their intended episodes did, such as one featuring Stolas teaching Octavia how to use the Grimoire's magic. This seems to indicate that after the events of episode 2, he finally took the time to teach her the spells, perhaps the ones specifically meant to take them to Azathoth's tears. Perhaps the saddest thing about this episode was learning just how horrible the living conditions were at the Hellhound Adoption Foundation, which continued to portray Hellhounds more as pets than as people. Blitz seemed to come to the Hellhound Adoption Foundation for the reason I speculated in the past, to force someone to be his family. However, he chose Luna in particular not because he thought she would play the role best, but because he felt she needed help more than the others, and saw how she was going to have a horrible life when she aged out of the system. I discussed the issue of Hellhounds and whether or not they are just slaves in hell at length in an upcoming video about how Beelzebub rules the Gluttony Ring, just one part in an 8-part series that will be coming out in the next 2 weeks on how the elites of hell rule their people. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and we'll be going in depth on every single ring and its rulers. For those who can't wait, you can use the join button to get to join our early access club, where all 8 parts of this series are already up, as well as another video going up today about the evolution and migration of hell species. But all of these will be released on the channel in the next few weeks as well. See you guys then.